He's the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, entering his second season as such. Frank Reich here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Coach?
Hey, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing
great.
Excellent. Fantastic. Year two, what do you, what do you think year one was like that you're already looking to try and tighten up just from your own perspective as a head coach, Frank?
Well, I'll tell you what, it just feels, the whole offseason has felt better, different, just growing, learning from everything. First and foremost, just learning about the players, developing relationships, understanding, who they are, what do we bring to the table, what, the successes and failures that we've had that we've learned from, system-wise, digging deeper into our schemes in all three phases. Just feel like we're at a really good spot going into year two.
All right, so let's talk about some of these guys. Andrew Luck, what did you see from him that reminded you of some of the all-time greats that you've been fortunate enough to play with and also coach, Frank?
There are several things. When I think about elite quarterback play, first thing I always think about is toughness, mentally and physically, just having this tenacity, this grit, this will to win that is just second to none. And Andrew's got that. Seeing that, I've admired it from afar, but now to see it when you're 1-5 and when his mindset is very positive, very team-oriented. So that's number one. Number two, elite accuracy, as a quarterback. I've had the good fortune of being around some really accurate quarterbacks in my days, and you need that to be elite, and he's got that. And then thirdly, he's got what we like to refer to as accelerated vision, meaning he can just process information really quick. It's not just that he's smart. He can just manage all this information really fast and make really good decisions.
And do you, speak a different language just because you are quarterbacks, that it's easier for you to communicate with him as a head coach to him?
I do think that helps our relationship and the coach-player thing. The experience there. It's not everything, but it certainly is, I think, a big part of it. We're 2 or 3 steps down the road in those discussions, I think, because of that experience.
Frank Reich here on the Rich Eisen Show. In terms of nastiness, where does Quenton Nelson rank on people that you've, again, played with and coached?
He's at the top of the list. He's a nasty dude.
He is. We see it on film. I'm wondering what it is like to have a front row seat for that sort of thing.
Well, here's what's kind of cool about Quenton. He's not only nasty, like you remember back in the old days, there were, and I'm not going to name any names, there were guys that you would say nasty, and that almost meant nasty was synonymous with they had some dirty play in there. Quenton doesn't play dirty. He's just nasty and physically plays by the rules. He just physically is a dominant player, and that attitude is pretty infectious on our team.
Yeah, certainly in line play. You got to be able to just say, you know what, I'm gonna destroy the individual right across from me, and that's a tone setter. And in terms of that, when I say nasty, I did not mean dirty. I meant just stealing another individual's soul is basically what I meant right there. So in terms of that, who is that person you played with behind or watched play defense that ranks number one that you played with from your playing days that would steal someone's soul?
Oh man, that I played with. There's some good ones. Bruce Smith would certainly be up there. That guy was. He just had a way of. Bruce was, as a competitor, he was the best. He just was going to figure out a way to steal you, like you said, Rich. For him, stealing your soul was, it might not be running you over, but he was going to figure out a way to dominate you, and that might be running around you. It might be running through you, but he was so physically gifted. But yet had this capacity and instincts as a player that he just figured out how to dominate his opponent.
Yeah, Marshall Faulk tells a story about how the field in Buffalo has sort of like a crown to it, and Bruce would come out of the tunnel with the heat coming off, or just the heat coming off, not just it's hot because it's cold too, off people's heads. And he would stroll out with his arms all greased up, and everybody would just look at each other and go, "Uh-oh, this is a problem for all of us."
No, yeah, he certainly was. And you know what? The further away that I get from seeing what he did and getting a chance to, be in the same draft class as Bruce,
right?
Watch him through the years to really appreciate what he did. It just keeps getting bigger and better to me that how dominant he was. Even when he's playing in a 3-4 scheme, I know he was lined up at defensive end a fair amount too, but he's playing a 5 technique. To get 200 sacks, that's just crazy.
Well, I mean, Frank, you knowing him, anybody who's come across Bruce, certainly if he just does end up, later on have a cocktail, he will tell you that he played in the 3-4 scheme, getting 200 sacks, and he will tell you that
exactly.
that makes him a unique individual. I mean, he's not very shy in pointing that out, too.
No, well, he wasn't very shy in pointing it out that he was going to get 200 sacks. I remember him telling us that, that he was going to.
No kidding.
That was a goal, that he was going to end up as the sack leader. And he just had this will to dominate and compete that not many guys have. He had just at a very high level.
Well, before we get back to the front and center in the present day with you, Frank Reich, how often do you think about that victory in the playoffs, overcoming the Oilers? Do you think about it often? Do you use it as a coach in any way, shape, or form? The comeback of the ages that you authored.
Just the lessons from it. Just the lessons from it as far as team. Just how you and the team and the preparation and the belief. And then the philosophy of one play at a time. That more than anything, that carries over to how I coach, how I play, how I think about anything. That we got a lot of hype last year, a lot of talk about that 1-0 slogan that and get 1% better last year. That was kind of our mantra. Well, that's kind of a direct flow out of that one play at a time. I mean, I just don't see any other way to approach it. I know everybody says it, but our goal is, as a team, is to really embody that mindset more than anything else.
Well, I mean, it worked. You went from 1-5 to the playoffs. I mean, did you mention your personal comeback in that game? Obviously, a lot of people would know it. Did you use that specifically to dig out of a 1-5 hole at any point in time?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I think guys know that, but shoot, we have a couple other players on our team who have some pretty. Andrew has a pretty good comeback.
That's right.
And as a coach, yeah, I would occasionally pull out an old story. But what I try to do as a coach, I want to know my players. I want to know the players' stories. This game is about these players, and I think as coaches, let me learn what their story is. Let's highlight that. Sure, we're going to learn from past experiences, and every coach is I'm bringing my past experiences to bear. I think everybody knows that and understands that. But at the end of the day, this is about us doing something special together and creating that kind of mindset, every day at practice, and then that's what leads to coming back from 1-5.
Do you, at any point in time, notice the fact that you did make that comeback and ended Houston's season at the same time last year? Did that dawn upon you, Frank?
Sure. I mean, you think about those things, but I don't think about them very long.
Okay.
I don't think about them very long because there's always so much to do, so much work to be done. The next step that has to be taken, the next day to figure out how to get better.
Right.
So that's more the mindset.
Okay. Did people in Houston ever give you grief still for that sort of
A little bit every now and then.
Okay.
A little bit every now and then.
All right, let's talk about the present day. Frank Reich, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. You like that pass interference is reviewable now? Were you for that?
You know what? I think we were. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good step. Is it the perfect step? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I think we'll continue to revise it and appreciate the fact that the league is exactly like we were just talking about, wanting to get better, try to figure out a way to eliminate what happened in the playoffs last year, and it usually takes several iterations to get to the final process of that, but this is a legitimate first step.
All right. Do you have a plan? I mean, a lot of coaches, as we all know, like to plan. A plan on when you think you're going to use it. Use the challenge flag. Offensive pass interference also is up there for grabs. And not only that, it could be called because you're trying to review a defensive pass interference, and it could come back that it's on your guy to begin with, your offensive player, Frank.
No, exactly. And so, we're talking about that quite a bit. We have two guys in our analytics department who I talk to daily about a variety of things. And, so we're always talking through these scenarios on how we're going to do that. Those guys are always looking at film, thinking through the strategy of when to challenge, when not to challenge, looking at all the situational components that come into it. It's hard to figure them all out, but that's why you got to have a couple guys that 24/7, that's all they think about, and then we can process through that together.
All right, in a couple minutes I have left with you here, Coach. Paris Campbell, man, oh man, does that guy run fast? Is that one way to put it? How are you going to employ him in your offense? What are you going to do with this young, talented rookie out of The Ohio State here with you?
Yeah, we really are excited about Paris. Not just, like you said, Rich, he is really fast. But the reason we drafted him where we did and are so excited about him is we feel like he's not only fast, but he runs good routes. He's smart. He has good hands. He's not just in Ohio State, they used him in a very good way. They used him in a hybrid slot kind of gadget guy receiver, and he'll certainly do some of that for us. But we see a guy who's going to develop into a legitimate NFL receiver, not just a gadget guy, not just a slot receiver, a guy who can play inside or out, and really develop into the real deal from head to toe. So we think that's the kind of player we have.
So it's not to be fair and balanced because you signed Devin Funchess from Michigan, Frank. You're not trying to just be fair and balanced with that whole.
No, we're not trying. No.
Okay, so.
No, they both complement. It's really exciting. Offensively
right.
now. Then you had T.Y. Hilton to the mix, right. And Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle, Marlon. I mean, this is good stuff to think about. And so Paris, we're excited about him, and Funchess, man. You talk about big and strong and long and good route runner. So we're excited about the weapons we have on offense.
And then last one for you, Darius Leonard. You said you want to talk about players and stories. His is phenomenal, what he was able to do in year number one. What are your expectations for him in his second campaign in the pros?
What I love about Darius is, I know he knows he had a great year, but, when you talk to him, all he's talking about is how he's going to get better and become a better teammate, a better player. He's just got this infectious energy talking to him. He just got this infectious energy no matter what he's doing. If it's in a meeting, if he's out on the practice field, the guy's a real leader. He just got this spirit, this positive energy, this positive outlook on things. I mean, he's overcome a lot in his life, and he just has this way about him that makes him not only a great player but a great leader. So I'm expecting him to develop as both. He'll continue to get better as a player and as a leader, and I think make the guys around him even better.
Well, you know what championship teams look like, Frank? Do you have one?
Well, I'll tell you, here's what we talk about. We talk about championship teams practice like champions. So we talk about surrendering the results and the outcome to focus on the process. So to the extent that we can practice like champions and meet like champions and prepare like champions, we believe that's what will determine that. That's what will bring us the results at the end of the day, rather than us trying to focus on what the expectations are and how far we're going to go. Let's have our expectations focused around being champions at practice, and then that'll take us how far we can go.
Coach, thanks for the time. Let's chat down the line. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, Rich. Thank you.
You got it. That's Frank Reich.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.